Blast off. What's up, everybody? Hope you're great. Happy Saturday. Hope you guys slept well. Can you hear me? Huh? Let me check and make sure you can actually hear me. Can you hear me? Are you guys there? Huh? Check. 1, 2. Check. Can you guys actually hear me? What's up? Hope you guys are having a great Saturday. Hope you slept well. Hope you're ready for the rest of the weekend. Hope you guys are ready for the fucking spring. I know I am. I know all I can think about is consistent spring days. I went out to breakfast with my girl this morning, and it was like 50. Not good. Not very warm today, and that's a pain in the ass when it's just in the borderline, and you're kind of like, all right, you're over winter for sure, and you're just kind of waiting for it to be consistently nice. And then it's 50 again. Oh, Lord, when's it going to end? When's it going to end for sure? No, I think we're good. All right, let's get to a couple topics offhand. Number one, let's talk about Anavar quickly. I have jumped back on Anavar as of today. I'm running 11 milligrams a day. I got 23.5 milligram. Hold on one second. Let me turn this light on. There we go. Just a little more light in here. I got 23.5 milligram tablets from Empower Pharmacy that I got prescribed to me a while back, and I'm going to be running a half of those every day. So it's 11.5 milligrams or 12 milligrams, whatever that is. And I don't know. I haven't gone to the gym yet. I'm going to go to the gym directly after this, and we'll see. I decided to drop my test dose all the way down to see how much anabolism I can actually get from a cycle of Anavar. I also want to do it healthfully, etc. So I'm down to 105 milligrams a week a test at the moment, down from 200. So we'll see how that goes. Going to be running this Anavar cycle for 6 weeks if I can. Yeah, I'll run labs on all the cardiac markers and stuff throughout, sort of see where things are, look at liver enzymes. Last time I ran Anavar, liver enzymes didn't move. ApoB went up slightly. That's now back in range, so we'll have to monitor. But what I'm really interested in is on a very base level of test what Anavar ends up doing. So that's going to be really interesting. You know what? Let's just get right to questions. Good afternoon. Yeah, we're cutting into Vigorous Steve's time over here. Yeah, I had a busy morning. I had a sleepy morning, relatively sleepy morning, and then a busy morning. Lots of cuddling with my girl, and then to breakfast. Is this what? And then I became bald, guys. Check it out. I'm bald. It's a Snapchat filter. That's what I was doing this morning, doing Snapchat filters with my fucking Goldilocks queen. All right. Good afternoon, brothers. All right, so let's talk about hair loss. Looks like, hey, Ryan, ignoring hair loss, can you share your thoughts on the risks of long-term DHT? This is a good question. To be perfectly honest with you, I do not think that long-term use of exogenous DHT has negative long-term consequences. The studies have already been done on this, which show us that the intraprostate DHT does not change significantly in response to exogenous DHT. You know, there's studies on that. So again, you know, the prostate is an organ which regulates its own DHT. Even if you're dumping a bunch of exogenous DHT into the picture, the prostate sort of regulates its own level of DHT. Now, the scalp, on the other hand, well, this is different. You know, I think ignoring hair loss, no, I think there's really not going to be any major issues to that. I think certainly over time, the continued use of DHT is going to hyper-virilize you further, or masculinize you, if that's the term for the man. It does. You know, you're going to start growing hair in places where you previously didn't grow hair. I now have, from the use of exogenous DHT, like blonde hair on my back, and the rest of my hair is kind of dark. But on my back, where I never had hair, I've got a little bit of blonde hair growing. My beard up here, you know, tends to grow more when I'm using DHT. And so things like that will happen. I think generally your voice will get deeper and deeper to the point where it's just not going to be able to get deeper anymore the more that you use DHT. And there's really only benefits to it so long as it's not so much DHT at a time that it's countering estradiol too much, you know, because that can happen as well. But long term, I don't really see a problem with it. You know, I mean, I will cycle off of it because I just don't need to be using it consistently. But I really wouldn't see a problem if I continue to do it. I think also there's physique benefits. You know, I mean, the muscle hardening and the tone look that you get from DHT analogs, obviously Proviron, Primabol, and Masteron, man, it's fucking substantial. It's substantial. And DHT itself, although isn't made to stick around as long as some of these other drugs, does give you a physique modifying effect. When I'm running it consistently, especially at pretty high doses, the DHT gel, the 20%, the real high potency shit, my physique really does start to lean out, especially on top. I'm lean anyway, but I look more vascular and I look more toned and I look more cut. It's really been interesting. So I really don't think there's long-term risks. I think to the contrary, it hasn't been studied enough, but there are some studies implying the real benefit of DHT at staving off neurodegeneration, at obviously staving off depression, at keeping erection quality good. I mean, this is a critical hormone for erections. It is the active hormone in male organ tissues, the male organ tissue that maintenances erections, maintenances nitric oxide and endothelial function. It just is. So long-term, we don't know. If my guess at this point would be, aside from hair loss, you're not going to really run into any problems. Yeah, that's what I would confidently say at this point. Dylan, been running cream for a few months. Congratulations. Congratulations, bro. Cream, listen, if you can get cream to work for you, the dose is right, you feel good. Cream is easy. 3 pumps, 4 pumps, whatever on the scrotum in the morning. You're done. You're done. You don't have to inject anything. You don't have any weird, wacky reactions to any fucking carrier oils. You don't have to stab yourself. You don't have scar tissue. It's really just at onset's quick as fuck. Like the energy you feel with cream. Wow. Really, really powerful, boys. Really, really powerful. So I think it's an awesome modality to use testosterone. 3 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. The benefits are okay, but every time I add 50 milligrams of SIP for 1 to 3 days, I feel amazing when it slowly goes back down. Is this from more E? It possibly could be. Yeah. I mean, one thing that I'll have people know that I think a lot of people have also experienced is that if you're on somewhat of a lower dose of testosterone and then you just one day decide to inject 100 milligrams at once or 70 milligrams of prop, you're going to have a 1 to 3 day period of incredible erections and you're going to feel phenomenal and feel fucking great. And you're going to think that you can repeat that. After 2 days, let me just inject another 100 milligrams of Cypionate or 70 milligrams of prop. But what happens is then the hormone dynamic changes and it's estrogen coming up. That first time when estrogen's kind of in a low spot because you've been on a lower dose of testosterone and then you bring in a higher dose, things are really positive because estrogen's still kind of low. It's still kind of low and sort of just kind of creeping up there. And then it's just going to creep past a point where everything is good and then things won't be as good. This has happened to me several times. I remember this one time I was running just 3 pumps of cream in the morning, transcrotal cream. And then one day at 7 p.m., I decided I'm just going to inject 70 milligrams of prop at night. And holy fuck, I had an erection for 2-3 days that sure it went down, but it was largely consistent for, a good degree of those 2 to 3 days. Just pulsing hard, fucking crazy erections. And then, I tried running that again. This was very early on. It might have been a couple years ago. I think I ran the 70 milligrams like 2 days later or something. Quite similar to the same effect, but not quite. Then I did it again 2 days later, not the same effect. Estrogen went too high. So, this is what happens when this happens. If you can find, an aromasin dose, I think that'd probably be the best option. If you could just find an aromasin dose that makes sense to where you can do this, then that 50 milligrams of SIP, call it maybe every 3rd day or something, would not do you wrong. It just would not do you wrong. It tends to be the case though that Cypionate just tends to consistently aromatize, and whether the serum says one thing or the other, just the consistent aromatization could be a problem. It could be a problem for people. It definitely is. This is why people on infrequent injections tend to have a little better of a time, because they're not consistently aromatizing. They get a peak and then it starts dropping. It's not consistently happening. So there is a big difference in the state where you've got estradiol that peaks and then is kind of going back down versus estrogen that's constantly, converting. Chris is weighing in probably estrogen. Oh, almost definitely. I mean, unless it's just temporarily dropping SHBG, which I really don't see being a problem anyway. It's always estrogen, guys. It's always estrogen. And sometimes taking stuff to lower estrogen doesn't do it. You just got to go on a lower dose of test and, make up with the other androgenic effects with something like Proviron or something, or if it's anabolism, use Anavar. Dream big, bro. President Trump is definitely on modafinil. To have that much cognitive energy on multiple different things, it is. Do I agree? I don't know what he does. It's possible that he's dosing modafinil. I as far as I remember, he used to drink a lot of Diet Coke, so maybe it's just a lot of caffeine. I've taken breaks from caffeine at various points, and right now I'm definitely drinking a lot more caffeine than I usually drink, and I'm enjoying it. 2 Red Bulls a day. I'm drinking, a good solid coffee in the morning with some espresso shots. I'm drinking an actual cup of coffee later on in the day. Maybe one of those Starbucks double shots at like 5 p.m. I'm honestly drinking at least 350, 400 milligrams of caffeine these days, and I love it. But Trump, on the other hand, I mean, it's really hard to say. The guy seemingly eats like shit. All right. I mean, seemingly, he's kind of eating fast food. At least that's what we see. I'm sure he eats otherwise healthy meals and stuff. But I think this, like, if you're just one of those men that has a mission, you could get away with not eating the best and not really sleeping a whole lot. Apparently, Trump doesn't really sleep that well or sleep a lot. Sleep 4 or 5 hours a night, then he's up. Guy has to run the country. Prior to that, he's running fucking businesses, man. Lots of shit to do. Buying hotels, revamping hotels. So when you have a life, around stuff that you've built and you're wanting to be productive around it because it's exciting, you end up being able to get away with a lot less, healthy habits kind of thing. You just feel fucking awesome, At the same time, there has to be some level of genetic influence there. Definitely. I think definitely. I mean, there's obviously weird genetic shit happening in the Trump family. His son Barron's like 6'9" or something. There's just weird shit. I mean, these people are seemingly just elite level people, or something's going on there. James Evans, hey Ryan, what are the best substances to recover from persistent low libido after ruining it with amphetamine, stimfap, binges? My friend is 6 months clean, but still has no libido. Well, I think there's a number of different things you could try doing. One would be the use of methylene blue. Methylene blue tends to sensitize dopamine if it's been firing at an excessive rate prior, or if it's firing at an excessively low rate now. Methylene blue is one of those compounds that tends to at least try to get to the bottom of that and resolve it. You could try running a cycle of 9 MEBC at 50 milligrams for 50 days straight with a 2-week break, after which you determine if you want to run that cycle again. Usually people do. At the same time, hormones, that's really the lowest hanging fruit in this case. Somebody, jacked up dopamine signaling, and obviously hormones can't be perfectly good if you're having libido problems. That's just the bottom line, right? So in addition to some dopamine signaling issues, it's definitely hormones. So, I'd suggest TRT, a little bit of HCG, getting the estrogen in the right spot, finding whatever ancillaries work for you, and moving on from there. Rogue Trader, hey Ryan, I don't know if you recall me asking you a question about having high hemoglobin and hematocrit with 120 a test. I do remember. I found out that I have hypoxemia, which is causing my body to make more hemoglobin. Okay, well, there's your answer right there. I wonder what the hell's causing that. I don't know of many conditions aside from essentially long COVID or the what that could be causing blood oxygen problems. I think both of which have been proven to do so. So other than that, I don't know. I hope you're not a smoker or a chain smoker, because those things could certainly cause that to happen. Those would be my first kind of, at first glance, my first suggestions. The visualizer is visualizing. Are you visualizing? Thanks for visualizing. What are you visualizing? Care Bears? I lost your chat here, buddy. Lost your chat. Thanks for the source list. Yes, just bought it this week and placed an order for 10% DHT gel. I believe there's only 20%. I'm not sure where you're getting the 10% from. Maybe maybe one of the vendors just launched a 10%. And oral methyl DHT. Very awesome. Do you have any experience with the oral DHT? Yeah, the only DHT that I've gotten from one of the sources, I've gotten the DHT powder, the high potency DHT gel as well as DHT powder, came in a powder form. It literally came in a bag of white powder, just 2 grams or something per each. No, it was like 5 grams or something in each bag. Just pure raw DHT. Very fast half-life, taking it sublingually and 10 to 50 milligram doses is pretty powerful, and you get all the benefits of DHT relatively quickly. It's out of the system, so it's not sticking around much, and pretty awesome stuff. But regarding oral methyl DHT, I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about. Like, I have not used some oral version and a tablet form of DHT. If you're referring to Masterolone, then yes, I've used a ton of Masterolone over the years, and effectively That's what it is, but with 5x less potency at the AR than DHT itself is Profirin. Everything Farley, is it better topical or taking a pill? Regarding DHT, frankly, I think it's better topically. Transdermally. It seems to have a more pronounced effect, and it also seems to last a little longer because possibly you're metabolizing it out of the liver when you're dosing it orally in a pill or something. That is what I think is happening in these cases. Will Ferrell, would I recommend using Indractum gel for bedroom performance as needed? That's really not how I would use that, because I don't believe, from my experience at least, that Indractum is a very practical solution to that because of the potency. It's 2.5%. You'd really want at least a 10% concentration, 10% potency DHT gel versus a 2.5% if you're going to use it acutely for sexual performance. And here's why. I don't think that you can get, considering some of that DHT is going to go systemically, enough DHT locally at the penile tissue with a 2.5% gel. You would have to rub a lot of it on there. You'd have to really rub a lot of it. And it's not irritative of the skin, but too much can be a little bit irritative of the skin. So, you're honestly better off getting 20% DHT gel. You can find that on the source list. Go source that stuff in. And then it comes in a dropper. It's really an oil. It just feels much more like an oil than a gel. And then you can put 0.25 milliliters on the shaft. It's an easy ordeal. It's not a ton of material that you're putting on at once, and get like quadruple or quintuple the benefits of just a 2.5% gel. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's what I think about that, buddy. That's what I think. Brother. Sink or hustle. How do you handle SHBG when you get on Anavar? When I take my Anavar, my SHBG gets low. Last check, my SHBG was at 11. Or no, was it 12 or 13? It's just at that range where below which it's going to be low. I never had any problems on low SHBG. So, and I see a lot of people with a lower end SHBG on the bloods and they don't have problems either. So, for me personally, and I think for a lot of other individuals, lower end SHBG is not really going to be a significant problem. If you get it below 5, then that could be a problem. But you'd be hard pressed to do that on some Anavar. I'll monitor what the sex hormone binding globulin is doing. I'm just going to go get bloods, probably 3 weeks or so. I'm just running 11 milligrams a day of Anavar at this point with 100 milligrams of test a week and some HCG and DHEA, of course. I just literally changed that protocol today. Yep. I talked about my intention for that in the beginning of the video. So we'll see how it works. PD, hey, I feel great on Versabase cream, but when I inject test sip, I get a little anxiety and depression from time to time. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, these are the kinds of things that can happen. I'm not a fan of testosterone cypionate. I mean, I'd rather use testosterone enanthate. Peaks higher, gives you more, seems to be just a better general overall effect. I'm not a huge fan of testosterone cypionate. I'm using enanthate now, and that's what I'll always use in terms of a long ester moving forward. So, but I would say if you feel great on the Versa cream, don't do anything else. Take the cream, ride off into the sunset. Be happy you found something. Dangerwood, how did you and Dave Lee and Lucas Owen bury the hatchet? Because I remember you had problems with both of those guys at some point. I never had a problem with Dave Lee, but I believed he was much more irrationally on the side of never manage estrogen than I thought. And talking with him and having some conversations with him, also watching some of his content, which made me reach out to him and invite him on the podcast. He has a different perspective. He's not radical like some of these other folks about estrogen, which is really good to have somebody that has a practical position on it and not entirely ideologic or dogmatic. So we really don't disagree on that. Where we really do agree on that, in addition, is to try to find things you can do so that your body deals with estrogen and deals with aromatase regulation better. Like using, look, if you got to use a little bit of synthetic thyroid hormones, use some, you do that. Some people will get on that on TRT and it fixes all their boner problems and libido problems and shit, meaning it fixes their estrogen problems. It's just one of those things. So regarding Lucas and I were best friends back in the day. And Lucas never had a YouTube channel, and Lucas found me ultimately from talking about nootropics on my, YouTube channel, which used to talk about nootropics. And then there was a period of about 6 months where I gave Lucas a lot of advice on how to build a YouTube channel and what to do. And then I invited him onto my podcast and kind of exposed him to, the audience, generally the YouTube audience. And then he started his channel, and the channel ultimately ended up taking off. I don't think Lucas was ever banned, so his channel was actually able to grow uninhibited, whereas we were banned 5 times or something, taken off of YouTube. So the algorithm just definitely shit canned us for a while, and Lucas ended up growing, which is great. It's good for him. I don't dislike him. I think these days his content's, when you get down to the content, it's actually nice and scientific, but he comes across a little spammy or something. And some people that have come to me about him and said, "Hey, I know you used to mess with this guy," kind of thing. Like, what's the deal with him, sort of thing. He seems scammy, but I don't think he is. I really don't. I think he generally means well. Is he building a business out of this? Yes, but so am I. I have been since the beginning, selling Cortex. Now selling Torque. We've got coaching programs. I've built a bunch of digital products, so I really don't think there's anything wrong with that. And that's it. Maybe I'll have Lucas on the podcast at some point, because him and I have a long history, I've known him for 8 years. I've known him personally for like 8 years. Unstoppable Man Health. Most recent labs show below range SHBG. I'm thinking due to androgens. Any recommendations to help? Libido and diamond cutters, they're not there like they used to. Interesting. Well, what else is happening in your protocol? Because again, it can't just be attributable to low SHBG. It's not something that typically causes that problem right there to happen. So who knows exactly what that is? But if you want to raise it, honestly, one of the best ways to do it would be to get off testosterone, start taking a little bit of synthetic thyroid hormone, possibly take a little HCG so you can keep some of that testosterone going, deal with the problem of having a little low testosterone in the meantime, and give that 3 to 6 months. That SHBG is definitely going to go back up. And then you can reapproach testosterone and maybe do it cyclically. You run testosterone for 6 months, SHBG gets a little low, and if that's problematic for you, you get off for a little, run a little thyroid hormone, you get that back up, and then keep that cycle going. Rogue Trader, do I have any clients not tolerating Test P? Not tolerating it? I certainly have people who dislike the PIP, the post-injection pain that comes along with test prop. So I think that is something that happens. Have I had people that have a hard time dialing in on it? Yes, I have. But ultimately, those were people that either didn't have the budget to continue working with me, where we could bring in the right ancillary, usually DHT derivative, to balance that, because it almost always has to do with estradiol, or it can cause some hair loss, right? Because you're getting a pretty significant peak in DHT, from the use of prop, for fucking sure. When I was running anything above 40 milligrams a day of prop, and I've run 70 a day, I've run 100 every third day, I run 80 every other day, and then definitely the hair loss is noticeable. It wouldn't fall completely out of my head, but if I was looking at my hair from the top, I'd see open spots and stuff, and I would be noticing actual hair in my fingers running through it in the shower and stuff like that. So, low-grade fever on Test P, that's going to go away over time. That's almost definitely test flu, which is almost definitely a response from one of testosterone's metabolites called etiocholanolone. That's really how you explain that. I really don't think it's carrier oil problems or any of those kinds of things. But some people beg to differ. Trevor, finally dialed in my dose after 10 years by simply adding an astrosol. What is a typical dose you've seen when taking 70 milligrams sip twice a week? Well, quite honestly, the most typical dose for that is no anastrosol. But you probably aromatizing a little more than I would. I ran 70 milligrams every fourth day. My E2 was at 34. Literally clocked in at 34. Erections were insane. My libido was insane. Everything was very good. So I didn't need any AI. But, in this case, for someone that might need an AI, I'd personally be shooting for like 0.125 once every 7 days or once every 10 days. Not 0.25 twice a week. If you aromatize like a madman, then yeah, 0.25 twice a week. You got to see exactly where you ultimately aromatize. Thank you, brother. Dream big. Do you think some people can get away with 1x a week 500 IU HCG? 100%, 100%, 100%. And it ends up being better. That kind of thing ends up being better for people because you don't have consistent aromatization. You know, anything that you do, this is why I'm not a huge fan of, I like daily injections are fine, but do them 5/8 inch needle, shallow intramuscular, because you're going to ultimately aromatize less consistently and probably ultimately a little less. Yeah, I see this all the time. People going on sub-Q and they aromatize fucking more, despite what, you know, the Reddit gospel is saying. So this is why you can't believe that shit. You can't believe that shit. Dude, I had graphs of it. I've put it on the channel, you know, of a guy who like was on an IM protocol, measured bloods, measured estradiol, switched to sub-Q, same dose. Fucking estrogen went up, man. Went up, dude. Because you're constantly aromatizing. I don't know how people don't get that. You know, I say that and people, it's like I'm the Anunnaki speaking alien language. Brother, you're constantly aromatizing, dude. Constantly. With this steady release. Constantly. You're never going to break. So the same principle applies here when you just dose 500 IU of HCG once a week. You know, you're not constantly stimulating the Leydig cells to produce estrogen, which is a good thing. Yeah. Watching an old video of yours, P5P still something on my radar. Yes, I don't use it these days. I just haven't needed to or wanted to use it. I use it for a libido boost if I absolutely need it, but right now my sex drive is phenomenal, especially because I got this girl around. That's me with a bald head and a Snapchat filter. But that's my girlfriend, Jill. I mean, she's fucking phenomenally sexy, so my shit just goes crazy around her. But if I felt like I needed to add in a little bit of P5P, I would. But at this point, I really don't feel as if I need to do that. But we've done serious breakdowns on P5P, so please check it out. Easy with the $20 super chat. Hey, brother. You know how much these cost? The 12-ounce ones cost $3, okay? With that $20, I'm buying a whole can. I'm buying a case. Thank you, bro. Really appreciate that. Good morning, dude. If you have a question, please follow it up. I'd love to give you some value for that money. Really appreciate it, though, bro. Hope you're doing great wherever you are on the planet, in the world, wherever you are on the planet, on this green earth. I hope that you're doing well. The visualizer, 10% gel, is from the same source as the 20. Okay, so this is 10% test gel, because I wasn't aware that they had a 10% DHT. They also have a liquid oral methyl DHT. Yeah, so they've got liquid Proviron. You're right, they do. I know what source you're talking about. Because that's what oral methyl DHT is. Proviron. Yeah, that's what Mysterolone is methyl DHT. If you had to pick one TRT add-on, what would it be, HCG or a DHT derivative? Can't answer that question because I don't know what you would want me to pick it for. You know? For what? If I were to pick one TRT add-on to chisel the fuck out of my physique while I'm still consciously lean, as well as, you know, lifting hard at the gym and stuff, it would be Proviron. Yep, Proviron. I don't know if I actually still have some of these images from Proviron, but I do. Yeah, this was when I run Proviron, you know, I just get super cut. Now I'm obviously physically lean. I'm lean, but this was 300 a week of prop or so, 270, 280 a week of prop, and 25 milligrams Proviron a day. And I had done that for like 30 days straight. And just look at my physique. It's fucking phenomenal. It's just like actually crazy. Here's another somewhat comparable, as I think I was cycling down on the test, but, you know, still a lot of Proviron. Just gets you really cut, man. Just, you know, it's just easier for the muscles to be in really, really, really good defined shape, which is nice. So, you know, if it's for cutness and stuff on a TRT dose or whatever, or even a high dose of testosterone, it'd certainly be Proviron. Right now I'm running 11 milligrams of Anavar a day. That's about the safest way you can take Anavar for 6 weeks straight is 11 milligrams or so, 10 milligrams. So we're going to see how I fare there. In order to really analyze the anabolism, my test dose has gone down to 100 milligrams a week. That was literally changed today. So I don't know. This could be a failed experiment. Might not be enough test for me. Might not be enough estrogen for me. I don't really know. I've never run 100 milligrams before. I've always been above that with a brief stint at 70, which was fucking horrific. And so after this, I might say for anabolism, Anavar. I mean, coaching clients and a lot of my understanding of Anavar would point to that being one of the best orals for anabolism. So That's just what I'd have to say about that, brother. Hair protocol for those that like hair and like high DHT. Yeah, derma rolling is going to be one of the best things you can do for this. Draw blood for sure. When I was doing it, I don't really do it anymore because I'm not running anything super crazy that's tanking my hair or messing with my hair all that much. So not something I need to fuck with at the moment. But tocotrienols, the use of tocotrienols has been proven to help hair regrow. And then also TB500. Yeah, I believe there's actually a study on that, but TB500 might be really, really powerful for, facilitating hair growth. Nothing that inhibits DHT. Never do that ever. Never do that ever. Never do that ever. How'd the Anavar experiment go, brother? Taking 25 pre-workouts, started a week ago, not started seeing or feeling much. See, this is crazy because the last time I ran Anavar, I did it for about almost a month. It was like 3 straight weeks, 3.5 weeks. And I ran it at 11 milligrams a day, 11.5 milligrams a day because I got these 23 milligram tablets. And, dude, the pumps in the gym were fucking sick on day 3. Like literally I was much stronger lifting weights. It was just, I'd call it a 10, not a 10, like a 20 to 35% strength increase. I was like stronger. I felt less fatigued. My muscles felt less fatigued. I could push more at the gym. And, I generally ended up physically just feeling better, with the use of that little bit of Anavar. Right now I'm running 11.5 milligrams a day. I just started today. I will have no idea how that's affecting me until about, later on this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll see how I feel. I don't particularly feel any different today. Dosed it this morning, who knows, but I will be hitting the gym after this, so, we'll see. We'll see how we fare there. Jared with the $9 super chat. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that, dude. Can't buy a case of Red Bulls with that, but I can buy a lot of like fruit stripe gum or something. It's my favorite gum. Although it only lasts fucking 27 seconds. It's practical to compare a weekly dose of test sip to a weekly dose of prop. No, not really. These compounds have completely different pharmacokinetics. Absolutely they do. 350 to 420 a week test prop is TRT for me. Absolutely. And that could be the case. That could just be the case. Some people are going to need that. Yeah. The only time that I ran above 300 a prop, I ran 420. This was on the actual test cycle I ran last summer. I did that for maybe 3 weeks, and then I only did that because I was getting test flu from Enanthate. So I just kind of switched esters and hoped that would help it, and it did. I went back on Enanthate, and I was fine at 560 a week. Does no one do blood panels? We all do blood panels. No, I'm not sure what you're talking about. But regarding this, no, it's not practical. Listen, prop leaves your system faster. That's just the bottom line. And there's a difference between being at 3,200 total test, right? 3,200 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone and 600 picograms per milliliter free test on prop versus cypionate. You feel different. This is why I know test is not test. People saying test is test, like just shut them off. They haven't seen enough. It's just the bottom line, man. Test is test. They're repeating that. Because someone else said that. They don't know that. They don't know that test is not test. You kidding me? I mean, these things peak completely different. So in and of themselves, because they peak way differently, test is not test. Yeah, test prop is its own animal. Test cream, completely its own animal. You kidding me? That extra conversion to DHT, you're not getting that as much of it, at least with an injection of cypionate. You're not. Prop peaks like this. Cypionate peaks like this. And then, or if it's very stable, you don't get stable prop. That shit goes, even if you're doing everyday injections, you're going boom, and then you're starting to come down, and then you hit it again, starting to come down. But it's vertical. You plot these out on these plotting websites, and it's vertical. So these things are different. If you need 420, which that's like 665 milligrams a day of prop. That's what you need. If I'm dosing prop daily, it's 50 milligrams a day, which is 350 a week. So I really don't see a problem with that, dude. I really don't. I really just don't. PIP might get a little annoying, but other than that, no issue. Thank you for the super chat, though. I really appreciate that, bro. Chris G, what are your thoughts on DHT oil at a 50 milligram per milliliter concentration versus DHT cream or gel? 50 milligrams per milliliter. It's not something I've messed with, so I really can't give you, a good take on that. Not a whole lot of experience. I have no experience with HGH, actually, so I really couldn't help you there. To pick one TRT add-on for libido and sex drive? Well, this is a hard one. It would be making sure that estrogen is in your sex drive and libido zone, because otherwise nothing's going to do it. And then it would be adding DHEA, 30 to 50 milligrams a day. DHEA, as long as estrogen is right for me, makes my fucking sex drive skyrocket. Like I'm insatiable. Alternatively, though, DHT. DHT itself. DHT gets you, those real dirty thoughts. Like, I mean, we're also, if you have a girlfriend or if you don't, like whatever you're interested in, every part, for me, it's like my girl, every part of her body is sexy anyway. But if there's more DHT in the picture, I tend to go more crazy for stuff like on her body. It just drives me nuts. So DHT, I mean, for fucking sure. Just all kinds of dirty thoughts and all that good shit with DHT. That's kind of what it does. Assuming estrogen's in the right place, really that hardcore male libido that makes you go crazy over females, that's DHT. That's not fucking estradiol. It's DHT, boys. It's DHT. Maddie, TRT is 2 pumps of cream, added 20 milligrams a day of prop, 30 milligrams of DHT powder, still no libido or ED improvement after 2 months. Going to try anything. Don't try anything. Figure out what the fuck's wrong here. Don't just switch. Don't do that. Okay, so you're 2 pumps of cream. What's the concentration? You're putting that on the scrotum, I assume? Okay. You added 20 a day of prop. Is that intramuscular prop or sub-Q prop? 30 milligrams of DHT. The powder is probably not the best use case in this situation, because it clears the system fast. So you want to get the gel. Where are you coming from? Are you coming from a place of having dosed finasteride or dosed a SSRI, where there's a problem there and you need to really get to the bottom of fixing it, where immediately you might not even have results from the use of hormones because it might take some time for things to balance out and resolve. What's that situation like? Where's your estrogen? That there is the biggest determinant. Are you converting enough T to DHT? And where is your estrogen? Where's estrogen? I don't see HCG in here. Maybe you need HCG. Some guys do, where they won't have libido on androgens. They're not going to have it. They just need that. They need the testicles to be functional. They need some of that ITT functioning, the IT signaling to work. Same thing with DHEA. DHEA converts into like fucking 7 or 8 other hormones, and they all have effects, not just acting as neurosteroids themselves. All of them are neurosteroids, including DHEA itself is a neurosteroid, modifies GABA receptors. But they do a bunch of different things, like intra-organ DHT production, tissue DHT production from DHEA. So are you on that? Don't just switch. Look at those things, and definitely look at your labs. What is the source list? It's a combination of sources for everything you can think of. Testosterone esters, DHT gel at high potency, shit you can't get from pharmaceutical companies because they don't make it. Oral DHT powder if you want to make your own gel. Various sources for high potency misterolone, pharmaceutical grade misterolone. Various sources for pharmaceutical grade Anavar Primo. Various sources for UGL, Anavar Primo. Everything else you can think of. Ancillaries, PD5 inhibitors, peptides for cheap, HCG for cheap. Everything you could want. Everything you want. Source list does not have 0.1, but I believe they do have 0.125, which you can get a pill cutter and split in half. And split in half again if you need to. Why would DHEA increase my blood pressure for about the first 6 hours after consumption? It could be via some unknown other mechanism, or it could be via conversion to estradiol. Yeah, it's entirely possible that that's what's happening. I think if you're not used to DHEA, it can cause a little bit of side effects initially when you start taking it. That has happened to me before, and it was a minor increase in blood pressure, but it was sort of marginal. I really kind of noticed it in my head. I felt like a real foggy feeling or something, which went away in like 2 days after, starting to dose DHEA with test, which was for the first time many years ago. Yeah. Can you use prop as a pre-workout? Sure. For gains, it's not the best for gains, but it is okay. It's okay. But yeah, you can inject 50 milligrams of prop before you go to the gym, and 24 hours later, a lot of that prop's going to be right out of the system. So you go there, inject it, go to the gym 2 hours later or so when it's really, really starting to peak, and then have a good time. Put on a little more muscle because you have a little more energy at the gym, at that time. Definitely, brother. My answer to that question is, of course, definitely, brother. What's the minimum starting dose per week of Masteron for your clients to resolve libido and sex drive? If somebody just needs to control estrogen and nothing else is really helping them do that, the lowest I've seen people go is 10 milligrams twice a week. Yep, 10 milligrams of Masteron twice. It isn't really doing much for anabolism, but it's blocking the estrogen receptors a little bit and inhibiting some aromatase a little bit. Yep, I've seen that be the case, man. I've seen it be the case. Is pregnenolone as important as DHA? I don't think so. I don't. Christoph, big fan of the content. Just started yesterday with 5 milligrams Anavar on top of Testosterone, 100 milligrams every 4 days. Immediate result on my libido, exactly like you said. So the Anavar is helping your libido. That can happen too via modifications in SHBG, via higher potency androgen receptor binding, via activation of the ARs for longer periods of time. This kind of stuff happens, man. This kind of stuff happens. Anavar's hit or miss with libido. It one way or the other typically doesn't tend to affect it. But then you'll have some people that are like, my dick looks bigger, I feel more horny kind of thing. People definitely respond slightly differently to these kinds of things, but mostly it's about anabolism with that compound. DHT gel, even at low doses, is awesome. Hell yeah, it is. Hell yeah. Am I worried about AI syndrome similar to PFS guys? I don't know what you're talking about there. There isn't such a syndrome that you crash your estrogen with AI and you can't fix it. People just don't know how. If it's not coming back, which would mean you don't have an aromatizable androgen in the picture at high enough doses for it to come back, use exogenous estradiol. There's always an answer. Siraj, hey Adam. Okay. Joe, all right. Joe B, do you take DHA and pregnenolone while using HCG? Just DHEA, 30 milligrams a day at this point, not pregnenolone. Am I a fan of oral carnitine or injectable? I haven't taken either. Well, I've taken a lot of acetyl L-carnitine. So I am a huge fan of that. I took a lot of that in my nootropics days. And I think it's pretty fucking awesome. Yeah, it's actually in the Torque stack and was in the Cortex stack as well. So yeah, I think it's pretty good stuff. I think it's real good stuff, actually. It's really good, brother. Triple M13 says, seems naval DMSO application is close to 100% absorption. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Most men will produce 300 to 400 micrograms DHT a day. Low dose monotherapy can be effective as well. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the navel is the spot for DMSO to do its thing, but I imagine that the solution that is in the 20% DHT gel from one of the sources on Source List is there's some DMSO in there in order to dissolve that DHT powder into actual liquid. So, and their instructions to especially hardcore sexual dysfunction people are to put the DHT on the navel. So they probably know that this is something. Where did you and your girl meet? We met on Bumble, dating app, and then I asked her out to dinner the following week, and we went out to one of my favorite places in Pittsburgh the following week. Yep. And then we pretty routinely got together for dates, whether it was the movies or one time we went to like a symphony and both fell asleep. Went out to dinners, went and did tacos, went and did drinks, hung out at my house. Later on, as we got more familiar, hung out at her place because she has kids. Yeah, we started falling in love probably, I don't know, hard to say. Yeah, a month and 2-3 weeks in, we were both feeling the feels, but not saying it to each other quite yet because we were both a little apprehensive about that. And then 2 months, definitely the feels were there. We hadn't really said anything, and then just 2.5 months or so, just about at the 3-month mark, I sat her down for breakfast and said, "Listen, I don't want to date anyone else." I had the exclusivity talk. I don't want to date anyone else. I like you that much. I want you to be my girl. And, asked her a couple questions about her life and just a few other things. And that was it. We left that breakfast as a couple, and then we fucking grew insanely strong in the weeks to come thereafter. But that's how it started. Ivan, hello, bro. It's normal in prop having more heart rate. It's an interesting way to phrase that, but I think you're probably from a different country. Not particularly. No, not particularly. Yeah. I mean, usually when people are very new to tests, you have an elevated heart rate for some time. I did in the first 6 months, and then it just went away. My heart rate, my whole body just adjusted. I do not have like any side effects. If I were to inject 300 or 400 milligrams at once, I'd probably have some side effects of like anathate or something. But if I did that consistently for the next, like, I did that once a week for the next 4 weeks, at like week 2, week 3, I wouldn't have any side effects anymore. Yeah. I mean, you're going to see that across the board with people who take grams upon grams of test. One of the other things that interestingly happened to me is that, like, I've dosed a lot of tests over the years and always had some degree of acne. It was never particularly troublesome. But now I have no acne. I mean, I might have a few pimples, like a few on my back, like a few. I mean, you can count them. Otherwise, I have no acne, dude. And some people are on the same dose of test that I'm on, and just running less shit than I'm on, and have a full back of acne. I just think your body gets used to these things over time, and it just sort of adjusts, and then you're not sitting there dealing with the side effects, etc. So this heart rate thing is definitely going to change for the better. It'll go away. TRT, 10 milligrams a week, incipient. I'm feeling lazy. You probably mean 100. Josh, emo oil is showing to be promising as a transport through the skin barrier similar to DMSO. Okay, interesting. So we have a new potential replacement for DMSO. Do I cold approach? What do you mean? When dating? Nah, when I was dating, which I'm so happy I'm not anymore, because it's honestly was painstaking a little bit. It was just apps. Rogue Trader, can you get exogenous estrogen from the source list? Yes, you can. Yep. You can get exogenous estradiol of various types, estradiol valerate and estradiol enanthate. Yeah, you can get from the source list. Valerate's a very fast-acting, short-lived version of estradiol, and then estradiol enanthate is a 4 to 5 day half-life version of estradiol. But you can get the both, either or on the source list. Yeah, there really isn't any compound boys on the source list that you can't get. Yeah, whether it's TREN or whatever the fuck you want, whatever you want. Whatever you want. You want to buck the trends. You want to go blow up and get gigantic and run a crazy cycle, hopefully safely, with all the, the education that Vigorous Steve and I put out there, but mostly him regarding cycles and stuff. Go. Change your life. Go blow up. Go gain fucking 20 pounds of mass. It's all on the source list. Anything you want to do. Anything you want to do. You're a full-grown man. Go experiment. It's fun. It's fun. I'm running a baby dose of Anavar at the moment. 11 milligrams. Just started it today. Lower dose of test. I kind of want to see, is it, what is the real power of a low dose of Anavar, a sustainable dose? I don't use telmisartan. Nope, don't need to. My blood pressure has never gone over 120 over 70. Yeah, I mean, it's usually sitting at 110 over 65 or 70. That's usually where it is, kind of no matter what. I can even throw down sodium chloride tablets, 2 grams of sodium. My blood pressure really won't move all that much. I mean, I've been running for almost 2 decades on and off, so I think that plays a big role. In addition to my genetics, I don't really think anyone in my family has ever had a blood pressure problem, at least on my mother's side. But who knows? Dream big. I want to try replacing my HCG for Masteron and see how I feel. I don't think that is a replacement. No, it is definitely not. It may help the testicles to stay somewhat functional because you're blocking estrogen receptors, similar to kind of how Clomid would work. You could consider Masteron a bit of a SERM, a little bit of a SERM, considering that's one of the things that it does. But it's not a replacement for HCG because you will not stimulate Leydig cells to produce test. You're not going to stimulate Sertoli cells to produce sperm. So it is just different. But there's this whole class of people that can take test and other stuff and just never take HCG, and they're fine. I'm not one of those people. I need a little bit of it. I need just a little bit of it. Don't need a ton of it, but I need enough of it. And, that's kind of that. That's kind of that, brother. But no, Masteron's not a replacement for HCG. It's just not, it's just not. Now, yeah, like DHT derivatives that could be useful in the context of trying to keep the testicles functional and, that system, ejaculate volume specifically, good would be Provirate, Musterolone. Do I use Arimidex or Exemestane? It'd be Exemestane, if I were to have to use an AI. I'm not using an AI right now. I wasn't even using one on 200 milligrams a week. I just knocked my dose down to 105. Was it? No, it's 100. It's just 100 milligrams a week because I'm running a baby dose of Anavar every day. Yep, 11 milligrams a day. Just started. Literally going to go do my first gym session after this. So we'll see how that fares. The goal is to run it for 6 weeks straight, but you never know. You never know. Me being at 100 milligrams a test, that might not be too enough test for me, just generally for how I feel and energy-wise. I feel great today, but this is just day one, of injecting very small amounts of test, and trying to use the Anavar for more of the anabolic factor and the test itself, just kind of baseline level of test. I will not need to touch estrogen fucking at all. So we'll see how that works out, but I'm definitely not going to need to use an AI on this. I will have fun at the gym. Not working on chest today. Did that yesterday. I don't know. Shoulders, maybe. Shoulders is probably what I'll work on today. For us guys, we go to the gym and it's like, it's pretty easy, man. It's either chest, biceps, shoulders, or, that's it. Traps. I don't know. Overhead arm presses. That's pretty much all, And like, if you're ever going to the gym and you're like, what should I work on? I worked on this yesterday. I worked on just work on chest. Just do chest. You can always do different kinds of chest, like the chest fly machine to get that middle definition. That crazy definition. That sort of middle definition. You see those lines there? That's what you want to do, brother. All right, sweet. I'm not on fucking reverb still. Just wanted to make sure, man. You're welcome for the advice, dude. Yeah, brother. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, brother. Also, yeah. Limit Break Ultra. What do you think test at 31 would be worth it? If you're hypogonadal, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of, you hear YouTubers and I think other people who kind of own clinics trying to be conservative about it. Well, I'd rather put them on something else at 31 if they're having hypogonadal. If it was me and I was 31, knowing what I know now, and I was hypogonadal, I'd fucking skip all the other bullshit and go on test. Yep. Yeah. Also, from a coaching perspective, if a 31-year-old came to me and there was no way to get the test up because it had been failing for years, I wouldn't want to waste time. I wouldn't want to waste time, which means test. Ever do any research into combining chemical penis enlargement along with pumps? There's also new research on anti-locks and Peyronie's disease medications combined with pumps increase. Not something I've looked into, brother. Yeah, not something I've looked into. The extent of PE or penis enhancement that I do is pumping and the Phoenix. The Phoenix is a shockwave device. So I run that. I haven't done it in probably a week and a half, 2 weeks, but I run the Phoenix for 2 iterations, wait 36 hours, run it again, wait 36 hours, run it again. Definitely helps with rigidity and thickness and stuff. And, when I'm in the shower, not every time, but probably every third time, I run the pump for 10 minutes or so at a medium gauge. Well, I think it's very useful to do. Very useful to do. I mean, you want to oxygenate the tissues of the organ, definitely, as much as you can. Nocturnal erections serve to do exactly that. But if you want to benefit in addition to that, or if you're in between protocols, you're not getting the nocturnals, run a pump. HCG monotherapy doses for a natural person. About 3,000 IU a week is what I would suggest. Split that up into 3x weekly, however that divvies. Elman, what's up, brother? I don't know, brother. You tell me. What's up? What's up, brother? Why don't you tell me what's up in the meantime? Huh? Go ahead, tell me what's up. I'll tell you what's up. Slept late, 8 a.m., snuggling with my girl all morning, went out to breakfast. And here we are. It's 54 degrees out, which feels so shitty considering it's fucking April 26th. That's what's up. Close to dialing in on Testi and Primo. However, Primo gives me low E2 feelings. Yes, it will do that if your test isn't high enough. Blood show E2 at 30. Should I aim for 40? Yeah, I would. I would aim for 40 or 45 in this case. At the same time, you can have pretty okay estradiol, but because you're inhibiting aromatase, you feel like you have low estrogen. It's just different. Inhibiting aromatase is not very selective. It's just everywhere you inhibit aromatase. So you get these low estrogen feels. You can't tell also, in addition, at the tissue level what's happening with estradiol. So the serum can be fine, but you're going to be starved of estrogen at the tissue, which would make you feel like it's crashed. You don't want that. So one of those things, man. Test at conception. Yeah, we just roll out of the womb. We do, though. We do. Do you know that your mother's HCG, your mother's human chorionic gonadotropin, you use? Yeah, you use. And then 5-AR comes and converts some of that test that comes from your mom's HCG and prevents progesterone from making you a woman. So, this is how you grow the male sexual organs, dude. That's how you get differentiated. Androgens. Test at conception really happens. It does. Bro. Thanks, bro. Pumping protocol. I have a digital one that, I don't know the actual gauge because it's digital. But it can go up to 30, which is really, really tight and kind of seemingly constrictive. Very, 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 very lots of blood flow being put into the organ. But I don't think that's particularly good because you can injure it a little bit and you can get some edema if you do it for too long. So I go somewhere in the middle at 10 to 15 on this digital thing, and I sit there for 10 to 15 minutes with it in the shower while I'm brushing my teeth or flossing or just thinking or fucking around or doing cold plunges. I'll turn the water to freezing cold and sit under there, go back and forth kind of thing. You know what's up, brother. Yeah, I do know what's up. Literally, I do know what's up. I mean, everything that isn't down, I guess, and anything that's above me is up at the moment. Dylan, chill on test cream. Chills? An hour after applying, then you get around 6 hours. Theory on this? You're getting chills? Fuck, I would not know. I would not know. That is not a common response at all, dude. Chills? I have no idea what that is, man. I mean, it may be some sort of immunogenic response to it. Yeah. Well, I mean, possibly modifying thyroid hormone output for a brief period, and it's making you a little cold. Yeah. There was a time when I wasn't taking, now I'm taking 3 capsules a day of bovine desiccated thyroid hormone, glandular tissue of a cow's thyroid. If I would dose high doses of test at once, like just doing like infrequent injections, like 150 milligrams of long ester, I would feel a little cold. Yeah, and that definitely had to do with thyroid hormones. Now that I'm dosing the right dose of desiccated thyroid for my body, which is 3 capsules a day, I'm always warm. My body's always physically warm, and this kind of shit doesn't happen. So maybe it has to do with thyroid hormones. It's hard to tell without actually getting more information from you regarding that. Happy Saturday, brother. Hope all is well. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Thanks, brother. Thanks. Announcement follows. Announcement follows. Announcement follows. Put your thinking caps on. Announcement follows. April's our busiest month in coaching. If you need to book, you have to book it now. We are toward the end of April. We have had a phenomenally crazy busy month. And the slots are open still. There are slots, but it's very, very close. It's very close to where I can't take anymore. Or I'll certainly take the bookings, but we won't start for another month, after booking. So right now, I'm still able to immediately start you. So, meaning get on the fact-finding call, figure out exactly what's wrong, get you ordering the right stuff that we need, and get you on a protocol immediately. So if you're thinking about booking, you got to do it ASAP. I mean, this whole time is the busiest month for us as a company with everything, not just coaching, but torque, products. We just do an insane amount of business in April because of the seasons change and taxes and among other things. So I'm getting booked. So if you're thinking about booking me and you're a serious individual with the budget and you want to fix something, we'll get to the bottom of it. We just need time. Book me, livecortex.com. Takes under a minute. I added that bovine thyroid. It worked perfectly. TSH from 5 to 0.6 in a month. Absolutely, right? Because your body recognizes you have enough T3 and T4, especially the free versions of those hormones, so the TSH goes down. That's precisely what happens. It's the same thing happened to me when I started taking that shit. And believe me, I felt fucking awesome. Bumping it up recently to 3 capsules a day. I'm warm all the time. My body's nice and warm. You know, some people run cold. You know what that is? It's their thyroid hormones, dude. I'm warm all the time. Doesn't mean when I'm out and cold that I'm not cold, because it's cold. But generally, I recover very quickly from that, and my body is generally very, very, very warm. All right, boys, I'm going to end the stream. Great chat. Happy fucking Saturday. Probably will. Who knows? I'm making some adjustments on the time we're doing live streams. So, you know, I'm kind of experimenting. Hey, does 1 p.m. work? I was with my girl all this morning, which I wouldn't trade for the world. So, you know, we might have to be moving these to 1 p.m. Possibly we'll do them on Sunday at 9 a.m. I just got to see what ultimately ends up working out for you guys and working out for the audience. So we'll see. Again, coaching, minimal slots, book when you can, book now. Serious individuals that are ready to start. Let's go. Let's go. We do not fuck around and we get results. Torque Stack, 20% off. That code is down in the description of this video. Source list, anything you can think of anabolic wise, including DHT high potency gel. Get that, livecortex.com. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on. Content this week. Look forward to it. Lots of content last week. Big, long breakdown on DHEA and its utility and power in a TRT protocol. Please check it out. Sub to the channel if you're new. Like the video. All of you here, please hit the like button. Makes a huge difference. All right. Mean a lot to me, really. If you do anything for me from the content that I've given to you guys over the years, I don't need a lot, but I would love a like. I really would. Honestly would. Boys, have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your weekend. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. 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 Let's go.